From time to time, I do some videos that can be controversial topics. I decided early on when we started making these videos that I would never shy away from talking about things that needed to be talked about. I've received some life-changing comments from all over the world that have given me hope, courage, and support for what we do here. I've received the alternative and the antithesis to that makes me never want to film another video again. And that's all part of being in the public and putting Samantha and I's story out there. I get it. It is what it is. But I made a commitment to, because I do come from faith, to God and to myself, that I would never shy away from helpful topics, no matter how controversial they are. And today is no exception. I'm going to talk to you about something that's incredibly sensitive. It is something that I do not hear a lot of people, even some of the top professionals, don't talk much about this. And I do not mean to put myself in a different place, like, well, you're not going to hear this anywhere. No, no, no. Please do not hear that. I want to very graciously talk to you about a situation that is more common than you would think. It speaks to the fact that many betrayed spouses will actually end up having affairs of their own. It could be very easy for you to take that statement and think that I'm trying to somehow level the playing field, like, you're going to cheat too, or, you betrayed spouses cheat too. Please, I'm confident enough and comfortable enough to appeal to you to let you know that is in nowhere near the vicinity of what I mean today. But I do receive messages, private messages from people that will discuss the fact that they are a betrayed spouse and they've had an affair of their own and they don't know why. Sometimes it's incredibly humiliating. There's a unique nuance to the betrayed spouse who has been cheated on but yet has an affair of their own. That is a very unique, very challenging situation that has to be handled with, as they say, kid gloves, because it speaks to some challenges and it speaks to some real sensitive issues with self-hatred and confusion and so many other different facets of just mental care. And I get that. And so today I want to give you some reasons as to why the betrayed spouse sometimes has an affair of their own. Now, you may have heard me say earlier, many betrayed spouses will have affairs of their own. And you may say, well, Samuel, how many? I'm not going to give you a statistic, but I will tell you graciously it's more than you would think. It's more than you would imagine. And I believe that there are some very specific reasons why some betrayed spouses, because it's not all, and it's not the majority, but it is a number that is pretty shocking, will have affairs of their own. I have consulted one of your biggest heroes, MJ. I've talked with her, and she's coming back in the new year. I've talked with Rick about this, and then I've talked to, over the years, hundreds of betrayed spouses who have found themselves in a pit of confusion, saying, how could I do this when I know what this is like on the other side? So you, as a betrayed spouse, may say, Samuel, are you saying that I'm going to have an affair? I don't know. I can only tell you that I've talked to hundreds of betrayed spouses over the years who have said to me in very private, very fragile conversations that they can't figure out why they would have an affair of their own when they have been cheated on. They can't rectify it. Like, why would I do to my either new spouse, because I'm remarried, or the spouse that cheated on me, why would I then do what I despised so incredibly in my spouse or partner that cheated on me? How could I allow this to happen? So I want to give you just a few reasons that I would really appeal to you to utilize in your life, because you may sit there behind that computer, phone, whatever device and say, look, that's never going to happen. I'm never going to do that. No. I would appeal to you again that many unfaithful said that they would never cheat on their spouse ever, or that they would never ever relapse, and they did relapse. And so be careful of the subtle form of pride that can show up in your life to say, no, 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 that'll never happen. I'm sorry, the truth is it does more often than you would think. One of the main reasons, if not the biggest reason, is as a betrayed spouse, you're incredibly hurt. You're incredibly vulnerable. And when we're vulnerable, we are open to things that we're not typically open to. And so we can have these moments where I've talked to betrayed spouses, and over again they'll say, you know, I was vulnerable, I was fragile. It felt good when this man or woman was pursuing me. It felt cathartic to be fawned over and pursued. I was fragile, I was broken, I was vulnerable. I thought I was healed, but this new person touched areas of my heart that I had never felt touched before. It was just a weird kind of form of duplicity, like I knew it was wrong, but it felt so good. You see, hurting people hurt people. That's not a judgmental attack. That's an appeal to let you know that when you're hurt, when you're vulnerable, when you're fragile, you feel a desire to get your needs met. And although it may be something that you actually despise, you can't deny the feelings that it provides for you. And there's this subtle form of safety, security, and pleasure that you receive. It's just a simple fact. When we are as broken and as fragile as infidelity can make us, as a betrayed, we start to be open to things that we wouldn't ordinarily be open to. To that same point, there's also a feeling of being wanted. You know, it's very easy to kind of say, well, my spouse has to want me, right? Or I'm supposed to want my spouse and I have to make myself want them, or what have you. But when you are wanted, seemingly chosen by another, and you have so much doubt and vulnerability and chaos inside of you, even after you've done recovery work that maybe didn't touch on those areas, it was maybe superficial, or you didn't allow it to go as deep as maybe you could have allowed it, let me just tell you that when you feel that sense of being wanted, it can feel overpowering. And if those dark, deep areas of our souls are not cared for, we become susceptible to things we never thought we would be susceptible to. The second reason is very plainly stated. Unhealed or uncared for trauma or grief or intense pain leaves us vulnerable to having an affair. I've talked with so many betrayed spouses who thought that they were healed, thought that they had put that chapter beyond them, that they had walked through that season, thought, okay, I'm healed, I'm ready, maybe for a new marriage, or maybe to move on in their own marriage, only to experience somewhere in the neighborhood of about 3 to as much as 10 years that a man or woman came along and they found themselves entrapped in an affair. And they struggled to find out why. And oftentimes it's because the pain, the trauma, maybe even the PTSD that you are experiencing now or have had to walk through was uncared for, unhealed. It just didn't get a lot of recovery work done, if you will, and they end up allowing themselves to drift into this relationship that they never saw coming, were completely blindsided by it, and struggle to find out why. And so that's why it's so often that I will appeal to you, betrayed, to care for the trauma that you're experiencing. And I go out of my way to validate that it is traumatic. It is life-changing. It is a life crisis. It is very common for a betrayed spouse to develop PTSD. I mean, it is as common as the sun to be traumatized by the discovery of infidelity, even if it's emotional, which some people say, oh, that's just emotional infidelity. It's not as traumatizing as a physical affair. That is not true. Even for those that struggle with the fact that their spouse has been involved in pornography, let me tell you, that's devastating. That crushes a man or woman who is a betrayed spouse. And so when you've been subjected to such immense trauma, if you don't care for it, if you don't go to the deep place, I promise you, it can possibly come back and make you vulnerable to things that you don't see ever happening in your future. Number 3, and this is a bit of an easy one, is, we are susceptible to revenge. Samantha's not here today, obviously, but she would tell you that there were times where she felt the temptation to have a revenge affair, to make me feel what she was feeling. Yes, like some would say, to give me a taste of my own medicine. And listen, this is just me talking, so you don't have to share your side of the story, but I talk to so many people who are tempted to have an affair. I mean, we know how easy it is nowadays to just simply get involved or have a one-night stand or something to level the playing field. And I've done a few videos here and there where I've just appealed to you to not do that. 2 wrongs will never make a right. And I appeal to you to understand that will not give the message to your unfaithful spouse that you think it will give. In fact, it will cause even more pain for you. It will muddy the waters. It will make it incredibly challenging to get to a point of healing if you add another crises onto the already intense situation that you're trying to wrestle with. In the heat of the moment one day, Samantha said, you know what? I should go out and have an affair. I should go out and make you feel what it feels like to do this. And I very calmly took a deep breath and I said, you know what? I hope and pray that you don't. But if you want to, go ahead, get ready to hate yourself half as much as I hate myself for what I've done. And it was a nasty moment in the kitchen. And she looked at me and I said yes. And I was very angry, but I was very controlled and said that to her. And she stood and looked at me with these eyes of daggers. And then later, when we kind of went back to repair that moment, she said to me, did you just say that to spite me? Or did you say that because that's genuinely how you feel? And it was a very delicate moment where I said, you have no idea how much I hate what I have done. If you go out and have an affair of your own, you're going to hate the fact that you violated your moral compass, that you became what you despised in me, because you have a choice. Sure, you may feel compelled and you're dealing with immense pain and hurt, but you have a choice not to have an affair. And so it was a delicate moment. Samantha says roughly maybe twice in the first probably 2 years did she feel as though there was temptations here or there to do that. Finally, the final reason is when you have been betrayed, the sanctity of marriage, the sanctity of what it originally was supposed to carry with that sense of fidelity, that sense of safety, has been marred, has been damaged. And so we let our guards down. We find it easier to engage in behavior that has become a little bit more normal for us, not in the fact that we're constantly doing it, but normalized in the sense that we've walked through, we've wrestled with this immense kind of untouchable or this immense issue that most people don't have to talk about. You've kind of lived through it. You've had to talk about it. You've had to wrestle with it. You've kind of made it very normal. And so maybe in the next marriage or maybe years down the road, that sanctity, that uniqueness, that sense of protection gets marred. And certainly in no way am I blaming a betrayed for that marring. I'm just simply saying the lines become gray. They become muddy. The intensity surrounding the sanctity of the marriage gets watered down. I hope that this helps you today. I hope that you hear the core of this message, which is an appeal to help those that find themselves in this situation and wonder, how did I get here? So you may ask yourself, in closing today, what do I do if I'm a betrayed and I've had an affair? I think you have to start a journey of finding out what's unhealed in your life, what's uncared for in your life. Where are there maybe some patches of pain and hurt or trauma that weren't addressed to the level that maybe they need to be? What in your life is still unhealed? It's a journey. But I promise you, you can find out why. I promise you, you don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to live perpetually confused, hating yourself for allowing something to happen in your own life that you never saw coming. It's okay. You can find healing today.